Channel's Week in Review. Why are Christians dancing horas and waving Israeli flags? Christian Zionism's biggest annual gathering arrives in Washington. How Muslims and Orthodox Jews are working together in New Jersey. And sitting down with the only Jewish Republican in Congress. It's the Jewish news that's changing your world on this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. It's the largest Israel advocacy group in the United States. But it's not AIPAC. Christians are now leading the charge on Israel advocacy, at least when judged by the numbers. As TJC found at last week's Washington Summit of Christians United for Israel, passions are high too. Here's my report. It was a celebration of Jewish heritage that was in some ways much like any other. There were hora circles with hundreds of women dancing to Israeli folk songs. And there was a group on stage singing those songs in their original Hebrew. Meanwhile, thousands of Israeli flags were waved furiously in cheering for Israel and a strong Jewish future. But those hora circles were filled with church ladies, not the synagogue sisterhood. And the group singing on stage wasn't an Israeli folk act, it was the choir of the Cornerstone Church that learned Hebrew and Hebrew songs. One of the main singers is Matthew Hagee, son of Pastor John Hagee, an evangelical Christian leader who preaches to millions and has spent decades gathering Christian support for the Jewish state. In 2006, he formalized that support by creating Christians United for Israel, or CUFI, which raises funds for Israeli causes and advocates politically on behalf of Israel. Now in 2010, the group claims more than 400,000 members, a size that would make it perhaps 4 times as large as any Jewish-led Israel advocacy group. CUFI has been in existence for a far shorter period of time than groups like AIPAC, which is nearly half a century old. And last week, with a live audience of thousands of Christians from around the country, and many more watching at home on television, this was his message.
Israel's enemies are America's enemies. Israel's fight is our fight. If a line has to be drawn, then draw it around both Christians and Jews, around Americans and Israelis. We are one. We are united. We will not be discouraged, and we will not be defeated. In the end, when the last battle has been fought, the flag of Israel is still going to be flying over the ancient walls of Jerusalem. Israel will prevail, and Jerusalem will be the praise of all the earth. May God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the state of Israel.
To see how Christians United for Israel has responded to those claims and what effect it's hoping to have on Washington, tune in to the full broadcast version of the Week in Review. And now to a different kind of interfaith political work. It's still rare to see a Muslim mayor anywhere in America, but one might expect it to be even harder to find a Muslim mayor in a town with a significant Orthodox Jewish population. But as Christian Needon found, that interfaith cooperation is what's shaping Teaneck, New Jersey.
This sight of an Orthodox Jew and a Muslim working together is rare enough. But what's going on here in Teaneck, New Jersey is even more rare. That's because this city, featuring a sizable Orthodox Jewish community, recently elected its first Muslim mayor. Mohammed Hamidudin, the son of Indian immigrants, was elected by a 5-2 vote of the city council, which also boasts several Orthodox Jewish members, including the newest deputy mayor, Adam Gusson. Yet Hamidudin doesn't see his election as that big of a deal.
Teaneck is a very, very diverse town. We do have a large Jewish population, we have a large African-American population, and we have a growing Hispanic population, and we always like to say diversity is our strength. So again, this is a story everywhere else except Teaneck. The people who voted for me, my religion wasn't an issue, and the people who voted against me, my religion was never an issue. It was all about politics and policy.
His Orthodox Jewish deputy mayor agrees.
Muhammad happens to be Muslim. In this case, I happen to be a Jew. So outside of Teaneck, I think it's a big story. Oh, there's a town with a Jewish, good-sized Jewish population and a Muslim mayor and Orthodox council members, and it seems like a great story. But in Teaneck, it's almost par for the course.
Reporting from Teaneck for the Jewish Channel, I'm Christian Needon.
Thank you, Christian. And now for our Newsmakers interview this week. He's the only Jewish Republican in Congress, seen as a rising star in the GOP, and currently its minority whip in the House of Representatives. Congressman Cantor spoke at last week's CUFI convention, and he sat down with the Jewish Channel to discuss how the Israeli-American relationship is faring. So, Congressman Cantor, that was a very strong speech you gave here at the Christians United for Israel conference. What was your first impression of this group when you first heard of them?
I don't even think words can describe the feeling you get when you walk into the room. thousands of people connected with CUFI. These are passionate individuals who believe in the state of Israel. And it is just a phenomenal force that is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm told that there will be 4,000 people here tomorrow night for the banquet to honor Israel. So I do think those of us in the pro-Israel community have much to be thankful for, that Christian Zionists are engaged in the political process. They also understand the existential threat that Israel faces and have joined us in the fight to assure Israel's survival.
Now, when was the first time that you heard that there was this Christian Zionism going on entirely outside the Jewish community?
Well, you know, I've sort of been familiar with it, I guess, for some time now. I mean, obviously with America being a predominantly Christian nation and growing up in an area without a very large Jewish population, I certainly grew to know very early on that there is a strong sense of commitment to the Judeo-Christian tradition on the part of most Americans.
What kind of difference have you seen between the discussion of Israel in the Jewish community or in Jewish advocacy groups and groups like Christians United for Israel?
Well, you know, I don't think it's fair to necessarily cast a one-size-fits-all description to Jewish advocacy groups. As we know, there's not a monolith. But I would say, as far as CUFI is concerned and the Christian Zionist movement, there is a sense of moral clarity that prevails, and it dominates. And you can feel it when you're here because there is a very intense commitment to stand up in every way possible, not only for the U.S.-Israel relationship, but for the lasting, eternal state of Israel.
Now, we heard before your speech Congressman Mike Pence, a Christian, giving a very stirring speech about how we need to support Israel. And I would say there's probably a different tone in your speech, almost kind of a witnessing of the Jewish experience. Do you feel that you have a different kind of responsibility here as a Jewish representative?
Well, listen, I am an American that's always a Jew. Obviously, as a student and supporter of the U.S.-Israel relationship, I feel it incumbent to necessarily make the case over and over that Israel's in the same fight that we are. I mean, I think most Americans understand that Israel's on the front lines, and they too are in the struggle against the ideological struggle against radical Islam. You know, they certainly have been the victim of terrorist attacks, just as we have here in the United States. They too are the target of maniacal terrorist regimes such as that in Iran. They too have been the subject and target of Islamic radicals that are intent on taking away our freedoms and intent on taking away our way of life and theirs.
And you were critical of the Obama administration, President Obama specifically in your speech. How much of what you just said do you think the president agrees with?
I can't look inside of his mind. I have been, over the course of the last several months, very concerned about the direction of policy coming out of the White House as far as the U.S.-Israel relationship is concerned. To me, Israel is certainly our best ally in the region and one of our closest allies in the world. And we, with our other allies, treat them with respect and the deference to know what is best for their citizenry, with the deference to understand how to secure its population. So I'm not quite sure why this administration, nor am I happy about the fact that this administration seems to be continuing to want to pressure Israel, our friend, and at the same time try and send a signal of open arms to perhaps our enemies. It sends the wrong signal.
All right, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for joining us,
Thank
Congressman
you.
Eric Cantor.
Right.
That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel during the week, please check out our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, RCN Channel 268, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.